Welcome back, Soulmates. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon or evening, depending where you're watching. If you just happen to be joining us, let's run back some of today's top stories. All eyes are on D.C. as President Biden prepares for his State of the Union address for the second time in his presidency. But it's the guests who are expected to be in attendance that's also making headlines. The parents of Tyree Nichols, the 29-year-old man who died after being beaten by Memphis police during a traffic stop, will be in attendance. Sitting in the First Lady's box, Representative Cori Bush of Missouri invited Michael Brown Sr., the father of a teenager who was shot and killed by a police officer in Missouri back in 2014. And the family of George Floyd is also expected to be in attendance this evening. All right, to Miami, where black leaders are apologizing to Florida governor, Republican governor that is, Ron DeSantis, after one of its members called him a racist. Pierre Rutledge, chair of the Miami-Dade Police Affairs Advisory Board, issued a statement on behalf of his board that apologized to DeSantis for a comment made at their meeting from a member who said, quote, "Our governor is a racist." The accusations of racism against DeSantis came as the board criticized the governor's rejection of an African-American history advanced placement course due to content about Black Lives Matters and other issues. And the FBI has two people in custody, one being a nationally known neo-Nazi leader, before they could launch an attack on Baltimore's power grid. Officials say 27-year-old Brandon Russell met Sarah Clendaniel online while serving earlier prison sentences. Included in the document outlining the case against Russell, federal prosecutors provided this picture they believe to be Clendaniel dressed in tactical gear containing a swastika, carrying a rifle, and wearing a pistol. And lastly, here to Nashville, Tennessee, there's a controversial bill that would rename part of a road honoring the late civil rights pioneer and politician, our hero, John Lewis. Back in July 2021, the city officially dedicated the road after John Lewis, who spent his college years at American Baptist College and Fisk University. But there's a new effort to rename a portion of the street after former President Donald Trump. We will keep our eye on this story. Nicola, back to you.
Thank you, Courtney. Now, today, February 7th, is National HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, which was first observed in 1999. NBHAAD is planned by the Strategic Leadership Council each year, and this observance is a day to acknowledge how HIV disproportionately affects Black people. Now, Black communities have made great progress in reducing HIV, yet racism, discrimination, and mistrust in the healthcare system may affect whether Black people seek or receive HIV prevention services. And Courtney, you're with someone who knows all about the progress made.
I am, Nicola. As you just mentioned, today is Black AIDS and HIV Day, and we have made great progress in reducing HIV, racism, discrimination, and mistrust in the healthcare system. These things continue to affect whether Black people seek or receive HIV prevention services. So, joining us now to further the conversation is C. Virginia Fields of the National Black Leadership Commission on AIDS in New York. And we want to welcome you, Ms. Fields, to the Black Report. We just heard from your colleague and good friend and comedian, Tony Wayford. So it's good to have you join us as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm delighted to join you. And I just have to say in your first segment, the story out of Florida and the one out of Tennessee, that is absolutely outrageous, and I agree with your comments on it.
Thank you so much. Absolutely asinine, and this is what we do here at FOXSOUL's Black Report, and we are just honored to have you here. So let's start with you telling us what you think about the current state of HIV/AIDS in the Black community in particular, and the role of the National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day in dealing with this particular problem, Ms. Fields.
I see it as sort of a good news, bad news scenario. Good news that we are still raising awareness. Bad news that after more than 3 decades, we are still having to raise the awareness, and that Blacks remain disproportionately impacted by this disease. You're absolutely correct. We made progress from antiretroviral treatments to reduction of eliminating the transfer of HIV from mother to child, to PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis, and the first national HIV/AIDS strategy that was put in place by President Obama. But we are still disproportionately impacted. Black folks, Black women among all women have the highest rate. So while there has been done, there's much work to do. And my organization, the National Black Leadership Commission on Health, known as Black Health, our focus really is on education, advocacy, and policy, because we have to continue to provide these resources in our own community on the ground in order to bring about some of the changes that we are seeking.
Yeah, talk a little bit about, Ms. Fields. You just talked about what the organization has been doing, is doing, and will continue to do. Talk a little bit significantly about the challenges in the southern region, where we know things have been pretty difficult when it comes to this movement.
They continue to be challenging because, first of all, for the most part in our southern states, the governors have not accepted the Medicaid expansion. And through that, it would have allowed many more people, especially Black people, to have access to health care and to the services and to PrEP. PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis, is really making a difference in terms of the numbers, but Blacks are very low in accessing it. Number one, the cost. They are making some traction in terms of reducing that. Number two, the information. There's not information at local federally qualified health centers. There's not information on college campuses, HBCUs, where Black people receive our information in our barbershops, in our beauty salons, nail salons, places where we go. We don't see commercials there advertising this. So Blacks are not really accessing it as involved in taking PrEP as others are.
Indeed, Ms. Fields, we are so excited about you being so on fire and bringing us this message. And as we close out today, there's so much to talk about, so we'll have to have you back now that you're an official soulmate. But as we close out today, how's the perception and understanding of AIDS? How, in your opinion, has it changed over the years, both in terms of public awareness and things like medical advancements? And how has this evolution impacted efforts to continue to fight and combat the spread of this particular disease?
Again, as far as a lot of the work in terms of treatment and prevention and care, we have seen significant gains. But as it relates to the Black community, we still lack the resources, because even under the National HIV/AIDS strategy, one of the important points was that the resources were to go into the communities of greatest need. Based on the data, that certainly should have been the Black community, but we're not seeing that to the extent that we should. So there's much work to do that. Continuing resources so that organizations, say like mine, will be able to do the education, to go out there and make, carry the stories and make the information and get the resources. But they are drying up. We do not see the funding to the extent that is needed there. And after COVID, when everything was, locked down and people were not getting tested, all of that now is like we're having to revisit and do differently.
So much to address, so much to cover. I wish we had more time. Again, we'll just have to have you back on as you continue to be an integral part of this movement. Miss C. Virginia Fields, we appreciate you so very much, and we thank you for being a part of FOXSOUL's Black Report today. And we must have you back on. We appreciate you so very much, and thank you for continuing to get into good trouble. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Love it.
And here's what happened today in Black history. In 1872, Mississippi's Alcorn A&M College opened and was the first Black land-grant college established in the United States. On this day, in 1926, Carter G. Woodson creates Negro History Week, and in 1976, it became Black History Month. Comedian actor Chris Rock was born today in South Carolina in 1967. And today in 1974, the Caribbean nation of Grenada became independent from the United Kingdom. Imagine that. And in the year of 1991, Haiti's first democratically elected president, Jean-Bertrand Aristide, was sworn in. And those are a few things that happened today in Black history. Now, during the 1950s and 60s, the civil rights movement challenged all forms of racial discrimination and segregation, and leaders in the movement made great strides for equality. However, perhaps the most troubling, unattained goal of the civil rights movement was bringing an end to police brutality and freeing Black people from disproportionate amounts of police violence. Take a look back at several civil rights figures who've worked to make a change, including Shirley Chisholm, Angela Davis, Huey P. Newton, Malcolm X, James Baldwin, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., among so many other hidden figures to be celebrated. Thank you all for the work that you've done.
And we'll be right back with more Fox Soul's Black Report. What an amazing collage there.
It was really great.
It leaves you speechless.
It was great. It was great.
Mic drop. We'll be right back.